Hello and welcome back to the channel.
Today, we're talking about one of the best trips we've taken to Africa.
Stay tuned as we share our 7-day itinerary and experience one of our most breathtaking natural wonders on the planet, Victoria Falls.
Welcome to World Wanderers.
We're Alicia and Will.
Come wander the world with us. Nestled on the border between Zambia and Zimbabwe, this majestic cascade, known locally as the smoke that thunders, is a sight to behold.
We made Victoria Falls our home base during our dream safari trip, and it worked out perfectly.
To get to Victoria Falls, you'll most likely fly through South Africa to get to the smaller airports near the falls.
To get there from the US, we flew from Washington, D.C. to Johannesburg, South Africa, to the Harry Mwanga Nkumbula International Airport in Livingston.
When we arrived at the airport, we purchased our visa for Zimbabwe. For US citizens, Zambia doesn't require a tourist visa, but Zimbabwe does, so we just knocked that out right away.
Yeah, a 30-day single entry visa currently costs around $30. And that can be purchased on arrival at the airport or at a border crossing.
Right, but the border crossing lines were a lot longer, so if you can get it at the airport, we'd probably recommend doing that. So you can either stay in the town of Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe, or in Livingstone, Zambia. Both areas have great access to the sites tourists will want to see, and you'll have to split your time between both countries to make sure you're seeing everything anyway. So we would just choose one of those towns and you'll get a similar experience.
We chose to stay in Livingston, Zambia, at the David Livingstone Safari Lodge and Spa.
It was a beautiful 4-star resort, and it's currently booking at about $210 per night. It's a little on the pricey side, but to get anything comparable in this area, especially that offers like food and accessibility to tours and stuff, you're going to pay about that price no matter what resort you go with.
Yeah, it was definitely 5-star, and I would say definitely worth the price.
Right.
Their concierge was great and helped us book all sorts of game drives and activities.
We literally just showed up and said, hey, can you help us make an itinerary for this week? And they did.
The highlight of this resort was also its proximity to the wildlife and the Zambezi River.
One evening, we came out of our room and literally saw a hippo swimming in the pool. It was awesome.
It turns out whenever a hippo claims a swimming pool, it now belongs to the hippo until it decides to leave.
Yeah, you're not swimming with a hippo. They're actually very mean, apparently, and not as cute as they look. We'll leave a link to the hotel in the description below in case you want to check it out.
On our arrival day, we checked into our hotel and made our game plan for the activities for the week.
Right, that evening, after we flew in, we took a sunset cruise on the Zambezi River that we arranged through the hotel. They picked us up right at the hotel dock.
There are many similar tour operators doing the cruises, and we thought it was a great, relaxing experience to end a long travel day.
Right, they served drinks and refreshments, and we got a great view of hippos and crocodiles in the river, and even some zebras and monkeys along the shoreline.
Yeah, and we saw a couple mongooses chasing a large snake. I don't remember if it was a cobra or not.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a great introduction to being there for sure.
On the second day, we went straight to see the beautiful falls.
Because the water flows over the falls from the Zambezi River in Zambia, you're going to need to head over to Zimbabwe to get a view of the falls.
Yeah, we crossed the border using our visas we bought at the airport and then hired a local guide to give us a history of the falls.
The entrance fee to the falls for international visitors is currently $50 per person per visit. This is pretty steep in my opinion, but Zimbabwe, like their government knows that tourists are going to pay it, so supply and demand, I guess.
Scottish missionary David Livingstone identified the falls in 1855 and named them after Queen Victoria.
Located on the border between Zambia and Zimbabwe, Victoria Falls is one of the world's largest waterfalls, with a width of 1,708 meters or 5,604 feet.
Well, it's neither the highest nor the widest waterfall in the world. Victoria Falls is classified as the largest based on its combined width and height of 108 meters or 354 feet. This results in the world's largest sheet of falling water. Iguazu Falls in South America has a higher annual average, but Victoria Falls is bigger in the wet season.
Right. And Victoria Falls are nearly twice the height of North America's Niagara Falls and well over twice its width, just for reference.
The falls look extremely different depending on the time of year they visit.
Yeah, we visited in October, which is approaching the peak of dry season.
The minimum flow, which does occur in November, around the 10th of the flow that occurs in April.
This variation in flow is greater than that of any of the other major falls in the world.
There's an excellent path along the Zimbabwe side of the falls that gives you great views and many different vantage points. And there's tons of friendly monkeys that will come up and try to interact with you.
Yeah, that was a highlight for him.
Yeah.
Later that afternoon, I got the chance to check off another big item on my bucket list, and that was bungee jumping.
The Victoria Falls Bridge is the border crossing point between Zimbabwe and Zambia and is 111 meters or 364 feet high.
It has a great background of the falls for the video you'll inevitably purchase if you decide to jump.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bungee! Jump! Wonderful! Proper! That's how you do it, girl! Woo!
This was my first bungee jumping experience, and it was great looking down at the Zambezi River as you're bouncing all around all over the place. I didn't think it was too scary, but if I didn't want to jump at the last second, I have a feeling they would have pushed me anyway.
I opted out because I don't really have any interest in bungee jumping. The ropes look a little frayed, a little old, and so did the bridge.
I'm a really good swimmer though, so I just had to outswim those crocodiles in the water if something happened. And I think it's been a few years at least since the last one broke. That woman lived too.
Yeah, that's true, she did. To bungee jump, you need to be at least 14 years old and weigh between 88 and 265 pounds.
They did make me get on a scale, even though I'm like right in the middle of that band. So I think this is a pretty strict rule. Pricing is currently $168 per person. And I thought this was worth it to do it in such a cool place if it's on your bucket list as well.
Afterwards, we were excited to see a bunch of monkeys hanging out near the bridge as well. They were super cute and not afraid of people.
No, they'll let you like come right up to you.
Yeah.
And I think they're looking for food or whatever. But if you wanted to, you could probably pet them.
On day 3, we headed to the Mosi Oyatunga National Park outside of Livingston to see the elephants up close.
Within the park is the Elephant Cafe, where you can have lunch, dinner, or high tea.
During this time, you can feed, interact, and take photos with the elephants who have either been rescued or born into the herd.
It's definitely a little pricey. Again, that's kind of the theme of Africa, I feel like, but it was a super cool experience. Prices currently start at $160 per person, which includes your food and the experience.
We'll leave a link in the description below if you want to look into it.
We should also mention that the minimum age is 10 years old, so something to keep in mind if you're traveling with children.
On day 4, we did one of our coolest activities ever.
We boarded a little boat from our hotel and sailed to Livingstone Island, a tiny island situated at the edge of Victoria Falls.
Here, during the dry season, when the water levels are low, you can swim in the famous Devil's Pool.
After thousands of years of erosion, many rock pools have formed near the Great Victoria Falls, and one of them is right on the very edge.
Devil's Pool is perched on top of a steep precipice to give you a great view over the sheer drop of the falls.
It's basically the ultimate infinity pool.
Yeah, from the boat drop-off point, there's like a rocky walk and swim in the Zambezi to reach the pool before slipping into the swimming hole that's probably about 6 to 10 feet deep and a little shallower around the edges.
Right. So once you're in the pool, the rushing water will pull you to the edge of the falls with a little rock lip that brings you to a halt as the water trickles over. A guide will hold your feet as you lay on the edge and look over and get the perfect picture.
The view from the edge is awesome. As you lay out over it, you can see it 320 feet down.
Right. A Devil's Pool is usually open between mid-August and mid-January, but it depends on the water levels at the Zambezi. Basically, they want to make sure there's no chance that the water is going to sweep you over the falls and you'll die a terrible death.
Pricing is currently around $120 per person, and this is kind of the trade-off between visiting in the dry season and the wet season.
Right. Like we wouldn't have gotten to do this if we had visited when the falls looked awesome. So this definitely helped kind of ease the pain of like, wow, these falls aren't nearly as breathtaking this time of year as they could have been had we gone the opposite time of year.
And the other benefit of the dry season is it's a little easier to see the animals and they're a little closer to the watering holes.
Right.
On day 5, we woke up early and took a long ride to Botswana to take an overnight safari to Chobe National Park.
This park is noted for having a population of lions, which prey on its large elephant population. Estimated to be around 50,000, the elephants living here are Kalahari elephants and the largest in herd size of all known elephant populations.
Yeah, in fact, the concentration is so high throughout Chobe that culls have been considered, but are deemed too controversial and have thus far been rejected by park management.
Upon arriving at Chobe, we first viewed the animals from a mid-sized boat. We saw tons of elephants, of course, crocodiles, hippos, giraffes, and a variety of birds.
Yeah, after the cruise, we loaded up into a truck with seats added into the bed and went deeper into the park to look for animals.
We saw so many different types of animals up close, including a leopard sleeping in the tree,
Yeah.
which is apparently one of the harder ones to kind of see. But
Really
again,
cool.
during dry season, a little easier to spot,
Yeah.
if you catch my pun.
We drove around for hours, taking in the beautiful scenery and animals where our driver gave us some background info in the park.
As the sun began to set, we pulled over and watched one of the most beautiful sunsets I've seen in my life.
Yeah, between the herd of elephants in the distance and the sun reflecting off the water, it was a really magical moment.
Once we got to the camp within the park, a team had set up expedition tents with mattresses and pads for us to sleep on.
They made an excellent dinner and we went to sleep for the night.
During the night, we did hear hyenas and some other animals moving through the camp.
Yeah, we didn't leave our tent and the animals didn't bother us, but it was slightly nerve-wracking to hear all the wild animals close up, even though you know they're really only after like food scraps that you've left around.
Yeah, I did make him come with me to use the buddy system to go pee in the middle of the night because I was a little bit worried that something would get me, but it was totally fine. On day 6, we woke up, had some breakfast, and headed off to search for even more animals. And to my delight, we did eventually find a pack of lions.
Yeah, they were napping in the sun, like right on the edge of one of the trails. And were really cool to see, and we were able to get pretty close to them because they were napping.
Right, yeah. We also spotted some monkeys with babies that they were carrying around.
Yeah.
It was adorable.
We then drove for a few more hours to get out of Chobe and headed back to our hotel in Livingston.
On our final day, we relaxed by the pool and explored the local town of Livingston.
Yeah, there were some nice restaurants, shops, and we bought some souvenirs.
Right. We had dinner at the hotel and prepared to head home for our early morning flight the next day.
Our takeaways from this trip are that it's a wonderful place to take a safari, especially if you want to do more than just see the animals.
It was an expensive trip, but after spending so much on flights to get there and assuming we might never come back, we didn't regret the amount we spent.
Yeah, and when we added everything up, we definitely spent less than we'd if we booked like a pre-packaged safari through a tour company. So we thought that was a win.
Yeah. In general, the food was excellent, both the African dishes and the dishes that were clearly catering towards Western diets.
Yeah, as far as vaccines go, we didn't take any because it was a last-minute planned trip, and we didn't have time to take any vaccines or malaria pills.
We did see a lot of mosquitoes around dusk, though, being so near the river. So the whole time we were a bit nervous that we may get malaria. So we would maybe reconsider this if we were going back.
Yeah. Thanks so much for watching.
Have you been to Victoria Falls or taken a safari somewhere you'd recommend to us? If so, let us know in the comments.
And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe to continue to wander the world with us.
Safe travels.